Welcome to the Fort Walton Beach Chamber's panel on reopening Florida in our community. We are here to help share what we have learned about Fort Walton Beach and Okaloosa County ramping up business after the beginning of phase one. I'd like to give a thank you to Ted, Seth, and the staff at the Fort Walton Beach Chamber for supporting this initiative to empower this panel of experts and you, our community, to help us all get back to business. I would like to start with a few notes about this Zoom meeting. I will provide a short introduction, followed by introductions of the panel and questions. We will then open the session to questions and answers. Your microphones will remain muted unless they are spotlighted to ask a question during the Q&A session. If you would please submit all questions via the chat function and add in there your name, your business, your question, and a contact email. All your questions will be responded to by someone. Some answers may take a little bit more research, so we'd like to get your email and answer you offline after the panel if such research is required. So this is a follow-on meeting to our first panel, which talked about the phase one opening almost 2 weeks ago. We've been operating in the phase one of Reopen Florida since then. Governor DeSantis approved Executive Order 20-123 to continue on. This is a full phase one, which is called the Safe, Smart, Step-by-Step Plan for Florida's Recovery. And I might say that if you search online for some of Governor DeSantis's conferences and questions and answers, it's quite informative to listen to what he has to say. Full phase one goes into effect today, actually this morning at 12 a.m. We've gathered a panel based on what we've learned about this order and some more topics. We do have some insight we can share to help you gather information, think about that information, and integrate your thoughts into solutions. We also have the ability to get your inputs, and that's through the chat area. Please put your inputs in and your questions, and as we gather them together, we'll start getting the questions ready for the Q&A and also share what you've learned with the panel and with others. Communication as a community will help us all approach the future with better tools in hands. Our panelists today include Commissioner Nathan Boyles, City Manager Michael Beatty, Restaurateur and Craft Brewer Nate Van Adder, Tourism Director Jennifer Adams, Destin Commons Senior Marketing Director Heather Ruiz, and Okaloosa County Schools Superintendent Marcus Chambers. Let's get started. Nathan Boyles is the District 3 Okaloosa County Commissioner. Nathan has great insight into government discussions and interactions focusing on reopening. He believes small businesses are the backbone of our economy and owns several businesses which supports local jobs and empower the local community. This gives him a unique viewpoint from both sides of the business angle. Nathan, amusement parks may submit a request to the state of Florida to reopen with a safety plan, along with endorsement letters from mayors or county administrators. Does the county have some guidance on this process?
So, hey, thanks for having me today, Stephen. Happy to participate again. The first thing I want to do is note that both Nate Van Adder and myself apparently both were able to get haircuts since our last video conference. And so I'm excited to see us clean back up and welcome back out into the real world a little bit as we move into full phase one. Yes, certainly, some advice to be offered. Obviously, not a lot of amusement parks here in Okaloosa County. I think I read actually in last week's newspaper the largest amusement park in Okaloosa County is bankrupt, and so I don't know that they'll be calling in the immediate future for assistance with their plan. I would really kind of take that topic and focus it in on the very similar process for vacation rentals. And that process, one, obviously very important here in Okaloosa County, where we have almost 80% of our inventory is focused in vacation rentals as opposed to the more traditional hotel room inventory. And so governor asked the same thing of counties if they wanted to begin to allow vacation rentals. We had to submit a plan. And so we actually worked on that process through the weekend, and a plan was submitted on Saturday to the governor's office. And so as we are on this call today, we are all eagerly awaiting. I saw Jennifer Adams is on the call. She's eagerly awaiting a word from the governor on the granting of permission with our plan so that we can begin to allow vacation rentals to open up here in Okaloosa County. As far as advice on those plans, obviously focused on safety is going to be the entire purpose. So cleaning, sanitization processes, ensuring that those facilities, whatever they may be, vacation rental or amusement park, are conducting affairs in a way that is likely to keep our local population, our workers, our families, our military members who are here, to keep our local population safe while still welcoming visitors from other locations.
That sounds like great news, and it sounds like we're on top of the ball in this county and following up with the governor's request and trying to move forward with working with them. That's excellent news. The executive order EO 20-69 describing the full phase one indicates the suspension of quorum requirements and has been extended through the duration of the order. Can you tell us what is a quorum and what does this guidance mean to us as citizens of Okaloosa County?
So not much, really. A quorum is a requirement for a minimum of half plus one, I believe is the technical definition, at a public meeting in order to conduct business. You have 5 county commissioners in Okaloosa County, meaning that typically 3 of us have to be physically present in the chambers in order to conduct business of the county. The governor's order suspended that requirement and allowed that quorum to be met by allowing members to attend remotely. We did have 2 commissioners who have been regularly attending the meetings remotely. We actually had a meeting here about a week or so ago where the only 2 members that were in attendance physically was actually Chairman Goodwin and myself. And I will just say candidly, I'm going to miss these days when they're gone, those days where we didn't have to have all 5 of us up there to actually get stuff done. But I suspect soon enough that restriction will come back into place and you'll have to have 3 commissioners at a minimum publicly at the meeting in order to conduct business. Outstanding.
So I noticed that in all these orders, there's a bottom line that talks about enforceability, and this one talks about a code 252.47. It says that there's a second-degree misdemeanor, 60 days imprisonment, and $500 fine, or both, for not following the order. What does this mean for businesses and residents when they're navigating through all this?
I mean, it means you need to follow the rules. Obviously, it's an indication of the fact that these rules are serious and that the governor wants us to follow those rules and everybody to be safe. I don't anticipate you're going to see a whole lot of folks doing 60 days in jail over violations. I would say, though, that probably for businesses, more importantly, could be licensure status. And so incumbent in these rules that have been promulgated by the governor is the ability, if you have a state license, for the state to take action against you. That could obviously be very important, whether you're a restaurant or a vacation rental. You need to make sure that you're following the rules. At the end of the day, enforcement at the local level will come down to the sheriff's office in coordination with the state's attorney's office. And I know that our sheriff, Larry Ashley, has worked very hard to try and take an educate first model on encouraging folks to comply with whatever rules have been promulgated by the governor, keeping in mind at the end of the day, the executive order, until it's revoked or overruled, is the law of the land in the entire state.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I don't want to end on more of a serious note, more of a positive note, that I was listening to Governor DeSantis talk, and I heard him talk out to us and say that he was really proud of the work he's seen in Northwest Florida. And I didn't know if you've heard any feedback from him on that.
Yeah, well, and we're proud of the work that we've done here. Unfortunately, this may be one of those things where we never really know, which aspects of the actions that we took were most effective. I kind of always been a fan of the scientific method, right, where you test one variable at a time, and the reality is we didn't have the luxury of doing that, and so we did a whole lot of things at once, and it seems that that maybe combined with luck and circumstance have resulted in, relatively speaking, very few number of cases of infection here in Okaloosa County, and certainly very few serious cases, and I think that's something to be proud of. I also think it gives us a good pivot point and a good positioning in order to move aggressively to get our economy back up and going.
Outstanding. Thank you for participating today, and I'm looking forward to some questions and answers coming on for you. Let's switch over to recreation and Fort Walton Beach. Today we have Michael Beatty, the city manager of Fort Walton Beach. Michael supports the city council in the development and evaluation of policy, He provides leadership and direction to employees in implementation of policies, programs, and daily operations. And he ensures that the city of Fort Walton Beach government provides the municipal services and the infrastructure necessary for a high quality of life for our citizens in a fiscally responsible manner. And just before we started, we also learned that he is the area's three-legged sack racing champion. Michael, you sound like a good one to help us out with recreation, being that champion. Local museums and libraries can operate at 50% only if permitted by local government. Will you discuss how Fort Walton Beach is viewing and deciding on these permits?
Sure. How we interpret that order, or that part of the order, is any government-run library or museum is subject to local government authority, whether it can reopen or not. Fort Walton Beach does have its own public library. We also have our own museum complex. We are slowly reopening those. We are not at the 50% capacity as the governor's order allows yet. Our library just started doing curbside service last week, and we are implementing a lot of the precautionary measures in order to open the entire facilities, hopefully by June 1st. We're installing sneeze guards, making sure we have sanitizer dispensers, masks for our employees, and a lot of the other guidelines that are being recommended. But we're working with any type of business that is allowed to reopen under the governor's orders. We don't permit, we're not permitting any reopening if they go back to their normal business operations. But if they need to expand things like restaurants, having to expand outdoor seating just to accommodate more customers, we are working with our local business owners to accommodate that in an expedited fashion.
Excellent. Sounds like there's some paths towards getting those places up and running in the next couple of months. One that's near and dear to me, and probably more near and dear to my dogs, since they are complaining that they don't like being part of the deadlifts in the house, since I'm short of weights. Gyms and fitness centers can operate at 50% building occupancy with appropriate safety measures, social distancing for classes, and appropriate cleaning of services. At a minimum, patron self-cleaning of services. Can you discuss some best practices for meeting these guidelines?
Yeah, a lot of it highlights similar things to other facilities. A lot of the disinfectants, cleaning of hard surfaces more often. A lot of these things, especially the patron self-cleaning of equipment. I know that was something that was in practice with a lot of gyms and fitness centers prior to COVID-19. I think now that's just being highlighted and needs to be more of an emphasis. They're going to have to go around after someone uses a piece of equipment and clean it more often. We do know that I've seen some places like yoga facilities or exercise classes, they're asking patrons to bring their own equipment, like mats or things like that, which will help cut down on the amount of cleaning that has to be done. And, we're just glad that things are starting to get back to normal. But I think a lot of the best practices that are being recommended are going to be part of the new normal, no matter what type of facility you go into, whether it be gyms and fitness centers, libraries, museums, you name it. You're going to see a lot more cleaning supplies. You're going to see a lot more of the employees cleaning the surfaces. And, it may take a little bit longer in the end, but I think the patrons are going to appreciate the new best practices.
That leads right into my next question. Patience will go a long way. And I know some of these places we're going to frequent and visit may take a little longer to start to finish, from when we leave our house to enjoy it to come on back. How much longer do you think someplace like a gym or a fitness center or a salon, these kind of things, restaurants, a visit will take with the new procedures?
It may take a little bit longer, especially if the employees are having to come behind patrons using the equipment. But if people start to follow and do self-cleaning after they're done using the equipment, I don't think it's going to take that much longer. As I said before, I think the patrons are going to appreciate the additional cleaning habits. And in the end, it's going to reduce the risk of exposure to not only the employees, but the patrons as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Professional sports venues may host training competitions, events, and games now under full phase one. This preempts any local rule prohibiting the same. What can we expect in our area for these types of activities?
I wish we did have some professional sports in the area. Our closest one are the Blue Wahoos in Pensacola. But I will say that our area with our new Preston Hood Sports Complex has become a hot spot for hosting national tournaments, whether it be for baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse. And over the last few years, those have picked up. Spring, summer, and fall are huge for those tournaments. And we're already getting tons of calls from a lot of those organizations on when they can come in and schedule their tournaments. A lot of them in the spring had been postponed, but we're getting a lot of calls. In fact, some want to have them as early as mid to late June. And so I think we're going to be able to accommodate that because outdoor activities are a lot easier to accommodate than indoor. And with our weather being great down here, there are going to be some things we're going to have to implement, such as we may have to limit the number of fans that can attend events. We may not be able to have all the teams in one area warming up before games. They may have to limit the amount of that. And, in the end, I think it's going to become part of the new normal, but we're not going to shy away from trying to have a lot of those events, especially as they become more popular.
Excellent. I remember seeing many games out there at that Preston Hood Park, and it's an exciting place to be. So restaurants, bars, pubs, and nightclubs. We have Nate Van Adder here, the CEO and co-founder of Props Craft Brewery. Nate understands the value of building your own business. If you walk into Props and take a look at the lights, Nate put those in. How about the bar? Well, a few military guys in his squadron made it. Nate makes it happen. Nate, restaurants and food establishments can increase indoor seating to 50% with appropriate partitioning. What is appropriate partitioning and how does that relate to social distancing?
Yeah, so a lot of this is not laid out real well, and you have to go and dig a little bit down into the DBPR website and in the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association website. Basically, what they want you to do is space it out at least like outside with 6 feet apart or some kind of barrier or partition in between the tables. Really, the most important thing, though, for a restaurant, in my opinion, is to go ahead and just take the actual number that is in your certificate of occupancy, divide it in half, and only have that many seats in the restaurant. Party's no bigger than 10 people at any tables. And the table's 6 feet apart inside, and you're going to be fine.
That sounds great. So when I'm adding this up, do employees numbers count in the 50% count?
So there was some more confusion on this, and it took some more digging. They do not count. So, for example, if you have 100 people on your CO, you can have 50 actual chairs in there and 50 people inside the restaurant at all times. I have the enforcement on this they've been very understanding. We had somebody come in here the other day and we were not over our limit, but he warned us that we were getting close. And then, hey, yeah, we said absolutely we comply. Nobody can sit down at a chair. We only have the right number of chairs. And the only people that I've seen really take a beating on this is if they're being egregious with it. And the sheriff's office has been much like Commissioner Boyle said. By the way, thanks for noticing my new haircut there, Commissioner Bowles. I'll thank my wife and let her know what you think of it. But basically, they went into this restaurant and they were well over the limit, and they asked them to go ahead and shut down for the night and just gave them a warning. And they were very educational as opposed to punitive, and as the owner who's trying to get by, I appreciate that.
So, well, we have this great outdoor area, and we had a little bit of rain today, which is greatly needed. So does the outdoor seating arrangements change for this full phase one?
No, it's exactly the same as it was before. And really, I encourage everybody that can sit outside. It's a beautiful time of the year for it. The virus is very susceptible to sunlight and wind, and it dissipates. So really what they tried to do was start with the outdoor seating. No changes. Everybody is still encouraged to seat as many people as you want to outside. The rules are exactly the same. Tables 6 feet apart, no more than 10 at a table, but there is no limit. You can be as creative as possible to get people outside.
Well, excellent. You explained that, our local law enforcement are also enforcing, but giving some guidance there. That's very great. And you mentioned the DBPR. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and how they're helping businesses with guidelines?
Yeah, so that's the Department of Business and DBPR. Yeah, professional regulations. Thank you. They're the regulatory agency, basically, that governs our the restaurants and bars and many other businesses out here. It's who we get licensed through, and they have some really helpful facts on their frequently asked questions on their website that'll really go through. And the questions that I had, I was able to get to their website, find it really easily, and really a lot of the questions that I didn't know I had were on there, and I was able to get in there and dig through that. And that is really the website you want to go to, because the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association, it's a wonderful website, and they have a lot of good recommendations as far as PPE and hand sanitizer at the table, and the little things that will make a difference. However, these guys are the regulatory guidance, and you have to do what they say. Anything above and beyond what you're doing is helpful for everybody. It's a good thing, but the DBPR website is the one that you're going to want to go to be in compliance.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nate. Let's switch over to talk about some tourism and vacation rentals. I know vacation rentals are a big topic in the news and discussions around, and tourism is even bigger. Jennifer Adams is the director of Destin Fort Walton Beach Tourism. Jennifer promotes tourism, sales, and increases overall visitation through marketing and advertising of our beautiful Emerald Coast to the outside world, generating a maximum return on investment for the local economy. And I know she's working hard. She talked about that last time on targeting different areas for our area as we increase tourism. Jennifer, the county may request to approve operation of vacation rentals with a letter from the county administrator and submission of a safety plan to the Secretary of DBPR. What is the status of vacation rentals from your perspective, reopening in our area?
Well, as Commissioner Boyle said, the county did submit a letter and a plan as requested by the governor Friday afternoon. I think Commissioner Boyle's called me even before the governor didn't finish his sentence on Friday afternoon. So we're on it. There was a little bit of uncertainty because the executive order wasn't released until the end of the day. But early Saturday morning, Mr. Hofstede did submit a letter on behalf of the county commission to the governor for reopening. Right now, the governor is reviewing the plan that we put in place. The plan that the county derived was very similar to the plan that our neighbors to the east and west put in. From Franklin through Escambia, all of our neighboring counties in Northwest Florida also submitted their plan. So there was some unity in there. We did listen to the governor's response when he said, if you are going to say that you're going to market to people and from New York and some of those states that are still under the executive order, I probably am not going to approve the plan. Which there's been a lot of discussion since then about one of our really close states, Louisiana. I wanted to say that the plan that we put in place is, the purpose of it is to have the vacation rental business back in business. I know that Memorial Day is a few days away, but we still have to follow the guidelines. I did send Seth the letter from Mr. Hofstede and the procedural guidelines, and at the bottom of it, it says this document and these rules will be reviewed bi-weekly. So it's not just here we go, we're putting something together, because things are still going to change. But as of today, and I would say that Representative Mel Ponder has worked tirelessly along with Board of County Commissioners, the county administration, and the TDC to submit this plan. I do see that there is a question on here from Barbara about the differences between hotels and vacation rentals. Well, just like what Nate was saying, hotels are regulated through DBPR. In fact, you can go on that site and find out all their rules. There's none of that for vacation rentals. For from what I understand, the hotels were left open for essential workers and for interstate travel for those workers and for, truckers and commerce and all that stuff. So hotels are regulated and short-term rentals are not.
Okay. And, I did read some of those executive orders right before the meeting, and I noticed that as you alluded to, Governor DeSantis said that, if you had a plan that said if you had somebody from one of the like, say, New York, or I think more general than tri-state area, that he probably wouldn't approve it. And I did a little digging and saw that the actual order that people coming from the tri-state area into our state are still required to quarantine. The original order that he put in place for that was extended through July 8th so far. So I know that's some of the things we have to work with. So leading from that, last session, you talked about some areas you're marketing for tourists that to try to bring those in. Can you provide us an update on where we're looking to for tourists and the success of the marketing effort?
So yes, so currently we have no paid advertising out in the marketplace as we typically would through the spring. We suspended our advertising in early March, and we've kept some of our social media just to keep constant messaging out there, but it's not promotional. So there's a big difference. We're looking towards our new campaign, Venture Out, and it's going to be a phased approach. When we're ready, when the commission's ready to give me the okay to start some marketing, we'll start within a 150-mile radius, not only just for overnight stays, but for even the day trip to stimulate the local economy. We're looking at how we can creatively use tourist development tax dollars to help stimulate the businesses, not just the lodging partners. From there, we're watching some key markets. Dallas is one of them, Nashville and St. Louis. They seem to be recovering well. And then we'll be looking at some other feeder markets. Obviously, we all know about Atlanta, but I'm not quite sure what's going on in Atlanta right now. So I'm not going to hit it really heavy. Some of our other markets like Washington, D.C., not so much right now. The other thing we're up against is we're still in an election year. And everybody's going to be fighting for those advertising dollars. We will remain focused on our drive markets, and we're using some of the new research technology that we purchased this year to watch those markets. We had some really great response from markets like Chicago and even New York, and we will not be reaching out to those markets. I will be presenting the plan to the county commissioners on June 2nd, and I don't know when we'll start the plan. We have to first be open, and we have to be sure that we're ready. There's been a lot of talk this weekend on both sides of the fence. Some locals aren't really ready for visitors to come back, and others are. So we're watching all of it and reviewing it and discussing it and strategizing on it daily.
It sounds like your daily routine is very full and exciting, not boring and just sitting around. So I'm happy to hear about all the things going on. And it's very exciting. Like every year I watch the Beast of the Beach wrestling tournament down at the convention center. The Emerald Coast Convention Center is a large venue, which it hosts amusement activities and sports events. Where does the Emerald Coast Convention Center fit in this order?
So first of all, we launched a new brand this January, and so Destin Fort Walton Beach Tourism. And now, if you look at the convention center, it's actually the Destin Fort Walton Beach Convention Center, which we didn't get to really tell anybody, but if you drive by, you can just wave at it. The convention center has been shut down since mid-March, and we've had to move and or cancel some of the meetings that we have. Melissa and her team have been working tirelessly in not only trying to salvage the business, because remember, the convention center is funded largely in part to the tourist development tax. So we want to try to maintain these meetings, keep them in local lodging, but when there's not all the lodging to put them in, we have to be really careful. So, but the team over there is painting and upgrading and doing all the things that we can do so that when we're ready to open back up, we will be able to. Melissa and I have a meeting with Deputy Administrator Craig Coffey tomorrow, because a lot of large facilities are following or trying to be creative with the now the 50% rule. So we serve food and beverage. So can we follow those rules in our own way and still accommodate some of the groups that are coming up? We're looking at how we can boost Wi-Fi in the garage or in the outside areas. So when we have these large cheer competitions, we can't have 100 people inside the building watching, but you can stream from outside or in your car. So we're looking at hopefully opening up sometime this summer, not at the capacity that we normally would be, but we're hoping for the fall that we'll be able to meet those needs. In addition, we're having to buy new cleaning equipment, and there's this whole domino effect of what the new rules are, and we're just trying to get ahead of them so that we can get that business back on track.
It's good to hear, and thank you for talking about this, that our tourism staff and projects are well on track to handling this scenario that we're in. Let's switch on over to personal services and retail viewpoints. Heather Ruiz is the Senior Director of Marketing and Learning and Leasing at Destin Commons. She's a highly motivated sales and marketing professional with over 10 years of sales, advertising, marketing experience with a focus on media development, strategic planning, branding, revenue generation, and special events. Heather is also the chair-elect for the Fort Walton Beach Chamber Board of Directors. She has a great understanding of our retail community and is a leader in our chamber. Heather, Phase 1 has been in operation for a couple weeks. Can you share some of the lessons learned in the retail business?
Hi, yes, definitely. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Appreciate that. Really, so far, just the last few weeks around Destin Commons and talking with our stores and our restaurants and things of that nature. For the most part, the guests that come on property are being very conscientious, following social distancing rules. And the stores have really done a great job as well of letting everybody know what the expectation is before they even step foot into the store. So a lot of storefront signage, letting people know exactly what the capacity is in a potential store. Typically they have somebody waiting at the door to open the door or keeping the doors propped open so people aren't touching those things, touching the doors over and over again. Staff is in masks, utilizing gloves. Obviously some of the dressing rooms and fitting rooms and things like that, they're not letting people try clothing on, and then also extended holding of materials that are returned to stores before they're going back out on the sales floor to ensure that they've been sanitized, having a holding period to where they're not being tried on again, after they've been returned. Touchless checkout has really been a big thing, and for those that can't have touchless checkout, they're going above and beyond to make sure that people can see all the sanitation and efforts of that nature that are going on at that time. We've kept our play area and our splash pad closed. Our little mini choo-choo hasn't been operational, again, just to further make sure that we're following social distancing and really keeping people as safe as they can be.
Excellent, excellent. And it sounds like there's a lot of different ways you can approach the business handling of this processes, because they're not all cookie cutter. And I know you have so many different unique businesses out there at Destin Commons, and now we're allowed to increase from 25 to 50% capacity. And I'm sure that even though there's not a cookie cutter approach, there are some best practices for growing to 50% that all businesses can share. Can you help us with some of those?
Yeah, again, I think it's just making sure to be very open and communicative with people prior to even stepping foot in the store. Like I said, most guests, they can see a sign on the door and see, okay, only 8 people allowed in here. There'll be an employee usually standing at the door if the store is at capacity. And I think you just continue to do those things. Urge people, to be patient and appreciative and let them know that these are practices to keep them safe as well as everybody else. We're not trying to ruin anybody's time or cause a difficulty with their shopping experience. And like I said, for the most part, it's been well followed, well advised. I'm sure as time goes on, people may get a little irritated with some of these things, a little tired of, oh, I've got to wait to go into the store again. So really just making sure that your frontline staff that's going to be coming into contact and interacting with customers feel confident, feel self-assured to be able to make sure to inform and also enforce these rules within the store. Because so many of us that are, an owner or manager and things of that nature, feel comfortable with that type of situation because we eat, sleep, and drink it every day. But making sure that anybody that's going to come into contact with a guest is fully informed or feels comfortable enough to address the situation should there be one.
Great. And on the information side, I noticed that this full phase 1 order specifically calls out businesses to follow OSHA and CDC guidelines. We've heard a lot about the CDC guidelines and we've discussed them. Can you address some of the emphasis on the OSHA guidelines and how do businesses find these?
Yeah, so always visiting the CDC and OSHA.gov websites directly is recommended. And then, of course, if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out to those organizations directly. Each of the businesses should have a rep for OSHA that they can go to directly as well. Because just to operate in general as a business, as a restaurant, there are OSHA guidelines that you have to be trained on, your staff has to be trained on. So reach out to your rep, speak to them about those types of things. But again, it's just increased cleaning. It's specific type of product. It's not just going and getting a Lysol wipe and wiping things down. Depending on, if you're a salon, you've got additional requirements now where it's appointment only. Both the stylist as well as the person having their hair done have to have masks on. You can't bring somebody in with you to hang out while you're getting your hair done. Same with the nail salons and spas and things of that nature as well. And so there's recommended cleaning tools, cleaning products, masks, gloves, and all of that. And so it's a lot, and it can be a little overwhelming, if you will. But if you take the time to just review and go through all of those, and then again, don't hesitate to ask questions and reach out to your OSHA rep. City officials, county officials, and we can all work together to get that information out there. And the other recommendation I have too is that if you don't feel as though that you're ready to open up to a 50% capacity at this point, you're not required to. You can. So don't feel as though that you're pressured and, oh, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. Get all of your information, get comfortable with it, ask the questions that you need to. And then move forward as what is safe and feels comfortable for you and your staff.
Sounds great. And it fits right in line with a lot of what I talk about in some of the classes that I work with at the university. We talk about plan, do, check, act, planning some processes out, doing those, checking with other people to see how they would do it, checking on our processes, making sure they're working. And after a few iterations, everything starts to get to be old hand, and you just start doing it without even thinking about it. So you improve your whole process. So, and getting on to education, today we have with us Marcus Chambers, who is the superintendent of schools in Okaloosa County. He has passionately served students, parents, and our community and fellow public educators for more than 21 years. I think I may have known him for almost that long. Before assuming the role of superintendent, Mr. Chambers served in multiple school-based leadership positions in Okaloosa County. I think almost every time I looked around, I could see him anywhere in the county at any given time. Don't know how he does it. Marcus, it's graduation season. And I don't know if everybody realizes, but I was looking at this and listening to some other talks you had. These graduates were born during 9/11 and graduate during COVID-19. I understand you're committed to making a plan to make graduation special for these students, whether it is fully open, limited attendance, or virtual. Will you address your plans for graduation for these students?
Yes, sir, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this panel. As you can imagine, as we've gone through COVID-19, as it pertains to schools, probably the biggest question that I've received is, are we going to have graduation? And we've said from the very beginning, and I've been strong with this, that we are going to have graduation. Now, what will that look like at the beginning, was yet to be seen. So we knew that we wanted to get the input from our seniors, and we wanted to get the input from our senior parents. So we sent out a survey to all of them, and we received over 1,600 responses back, which we were happy with. And overwhelmingly, as you can imagine, about 83% of them wanted to have a graduation of some sort on their school campuses. So we took that information and we started working. So here's the plan of what will happen in Okaloosa. So first of all, we are doing what we call our insurance plan. And the insurance plan is we will generate a virtual graduation. And our schools are underway right now. And what that means is we will be videoing principal speeches. We will be videoing those students who speak at graduation, the national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance, but we'll also be videoing each student coming up to the school, where they'll walk across the stage, they'll grab their diploma, and all of this will be videoed, and then it'll be produced with some local production companies, and it'll be produced into an overall graduation that will then go to our students and families and will be aired at some point. So that's the insurance policy, but also the week of July 14th through the 18th, we will also be having graduations on site. So we put a plan together. We ran it by Karen Chapman with the health department, Sheriff Ashley with the sheriff's department, to make sure that we're all on the same page. So July 14th through the 18th, we will have graduation, but they'll likely be smaller depending on CDC guidelines at that time. So if we are able to, we could have a full-scale graduation, but we are prepared for example, groups of 75 students, potentially where each student has 2 tickets. And of course, we would love to have 4, 6, 20 tickets, but the ultimate goal is to make sure that our students are celebrated. This is a group, like you said, they were born in 9/11 timeframe, and now they're graduating in COVID-19. This is a strong and resilient group, and our goal is to make sure that we give our students the best graduation that we possibly can, because these students deserve it.
I'm glad to hear, but expected nothing less that you and your staff are working hard to do these amazing things. And I think if we did have the virtual graduation, maybe it's something that the world can look at, and Hollywood can learn how to do real productions. I think you have all the talent there. And another big topic on everybody's mind is everyone's hoping in the fall that we'll have an open campus. What plans are in place towards that goal, and can you help us understand where we're at?
And I appreciate that question again. And that's probably the second most requested question from me. And here's where we are right now. But I want to say this. So I heard this stated the other day that we will know that this pandemic is over, so to speak, when kids are back in school. And I'm not an expert when it comes to any of this, but our goal is to make sure that we're part of that process. So we will be open in August, and I say that we are also planning contingency plans. So we are planning for a full-scale opening, but we are also making sure that we have our plan B and we have our plan C. So what I mean by that specifically is, so I've created a back-to-school task force, and this group will be comprised of those within the school system and some outside of the school system, as well as we're in the process of talking to some of our surrounding superintendents, because we want to be on the same page as much as we can, but at the same time understanding that Okaloosa could be different from some surrounding counties depending on where we are with each county. So our task force, they will be charged at looking at what will summer activities look like. They will be charged with looking at what will the start of school look like if, in fact, we cannot open as we normally do. So some of the things that we will be looking at, for example, is what will transportation look like? Right now on school buses, you may have 2 or 3 kids to a seat. So with social distancing, that is something that we would not be able to do. What would the lunchrooms look like? Will we have to go to a blended model of virtual education and on-site education? So we want to be sure that we are prepared, and we will be prepared for the start of school, but we are planning to start as we would any school year with contingency plans. The thing that we've talked about here in my office and with our principals is, we are a school district and our job is educating kids, but we are also a part of a bigger function within this community. And we know that, a healthy school system is a healthy local economy. With kids back in school and parents able to work and also focus their attention on, their jobs, it helps with, just a number of things. So the school district getting back to a sense of normalcy, I think, is important, but we have to do so in a safe and responsible manner.
That is great. And, I'm glad that I hit the top two questions that you've been asked, and I'm a little nervous if I can get the third. So I'm going to turn it around a little bit and say, do you have anything else that you'd like to share that I haven't already asked about here?
Yeah, so I would like to say, our school district, just like the other 66 school districts across the state of Florida, when this pandemic first started, we all had to act quickly. And we had to put an online learning model in place in essence in less than 2 weeks. And I'll say to our parents and to the community, we were not perfect, in implementing this, but we worked hard. And I'll say when we started with online instruction, we have over 32,000 students. And we knew that we had to have devices for these students to work on, whether it be iPads, laptops, or Chromebooks. So we ended up distributing about almost 10,000 devices out to our students. But then we also knew that they didn't all have internet. So we were able to partner with Cox, who was a big help. But we also bought about 1,000 mobile hotspots, iPhone 7s. So students who didn't have internet access could use those hotspots to access their curriculum. So we wanted to make sure that we got that going right away. To date, we've fed over 275,000 meals to our students. And we knew that we had to get that up and running right away. School actually started online on March 30th, but the week prior, we actually made sure that we had sites for our students to go to eat. But then we also included bus stops as well. So our bus drivers, they jumped on board and they delivered meals into the communities for those families who could not make their way to a school site. So I am extremely proud of our educational support professionals, our teachers, our administrators. What they've done in these unprecedented times, to me, is remarkable. These teachers, they went to school and they're face-to-face instructors, and now they're teaching virtually. And the same thing with our students and families. This is different. And there's not necessarily a roadmap for this, but the way everybody's come together to help our students and our employees is something that I am extremely grateful for. And once again, I am proud of the work of our employees, and I'm just as proud of our students for persevering through these difficult times. And like we've said to everybody, we're going to come out stronger because of this.
Yes, I'm very excited to hear that. And, the thought that came to my mind listening to you is you, your staff, the students, this community is developing a commitment to excellence. I mean, listening to you and these other great expert panelists, I'm seeing that this is why we live here. We have people that can help lead us. We have people amongst us that can help them work side by side and make this one of the best communities in the world. I mean, I got to admit, 9 months, 2-3 decades ago, I left and I came right back, realizing I left the place that is a area of excellence. And I thank you, panelists, for sharing your expert information. And I think we can all use this and integrate this information into successful business solutions, successful personal decisions, and successful community solutions. I'd like the communication to continue, and I think we have time for that. Seth's been watching the chat line, and Seth, can you pull up some of those questions and see what we can get started with?
Yes, so all the questions that were asked during the panel's time were answered in either person or the chat room. Nate, if you want to provide your answer on the buffets, I'll give you an opportunity just to provide that to the whole group in case they didn't catch it in the chat.
Sure, I've lost my video, but I'll just talk. So essentially, there's a question about buffets, and there's a lot of conflicting rumors out there about buffets and self-dispensing drink stations. Went to the DBPR website, and it went down right through all the restaurant rules and regulations, and it stopped, and it said nothing about buffets. But then in the best practices area below that, where it had a little bit of some recommendations, so like hand sanitizer and other things, it basically said employees only to the buffets, to the drink stations, and to salad bars. That is, once again, just a recommendation, just a best practice. It is not a rule, but it is on there as something if you want to go in above and beyond for the safety of your employees and for the other people in the restaurant. It's very highly recommended.
Awesome, thanks, Nate.
Sure.
And I would just say that if we want to open it up, if we have anybody that's in the meeting that wants to ask a question, just kind of make a note in the group chat and we'll let you ask your question in person. Ed, the Cabana Man, wants to know, the doctor that was on the last Zoom meeting, we're making the face shields for medical professions. And yeah, I can answer that. That was our First Friday Coffee, and that was the Shoe Foundation that was doing that. And we're happy to put you in contact with them, Ed, if you just give us a call here at the chamber after this meeting.
So does that wrap it up for the questions that we have so far, Seth?
I did not see any additional questions. I think the panelists did such an outstanding job providing information on the current full phase one that I think they answered all the questions before they had an opportunity to ask any.
Excellent, excellent. I really appreciate you panelists participating and helping the community out. We're going to go off and review the remaining questions. Well, we don't have any remaining ones, so we'll review any more that come in, and we'll be monitoring the progress of the orders towards a phase 2. I have not heard any rumors yet, so I don't have any timeline, but we're hoping to bring you a phase 2 panel discussion as soon as we hear some details. And I think that's all I have for today, unless, Seth, you have anything else you'd like to share?
No, sir. I would just like to thank all of our panelists for taking the time out of their day to spend with us and share their expertise.
Excellent. So to the Destin Fort Walton Beach area, I wish you the best, stay safe, and I think we have a lot of good things looking forward. Have a great day.
Take care, everyone. Bye.